Hi everyone, let's go through this AQA paper 3. This is from the year 2022. Number 1, we have a positive statement. This is something that's testable. So you can get it right, you can get it wrong. But it's not an opinion. It's not necessarily accurate. Not about rational behavior. It could just be correct or not. Which of the following is a nudge technique? So nudges, they still retain all the choices that the consumer has. However, they're just going to make things a little bit more difficult in one direction. So C sounds just about right. If you move things away from the supermarket checkouts, it's more inconvenient for you to get to them, or you won't see them as much, which means you're less likely to get the unhealthy food option. We have a PPC, the opportunity cost of producing an additional unit of capital goods. That's kind of difficult because we don't have 1 unit at a time. We have 100 units at a time. What you could do, I guess, is just kind of like ignore that. On the grand scheme of things, I don't think it really matters. You could just keep the 100. You can kind of like guesstimate things, and you're okay with these papers because you don't need like the actual thing anyway. So from X, when I have 1 extra capital goods, my opportunity cost is 150. I've lost 150 consumer goods. Whereas from Y, to get to the 1 extra capital goods, I am just losing 75 consumer goods. So I know I have scaled this, but you can see that it will always be greater for X than for Y. Right, question 4, we have a weighted price index. These questions are kind of standard. What is difficult sometimes is that you just need to be able to interpret the data that they give you like they can play tricks with that. So I'm just going to check that the weighting adds up to 100%, or 1 in this case, because they're all decimals. And we are told that the previous year, in year 1, all of these things had a price of 100 in this basket. But in year 2, 102, 104, 103. Okay, so we can work out the change in the price, which is 2%. This is 4%. This is 3%. That's your percentage change in price. And we need to weight these. So I'm only going to care about this 1/10 of the time because the weighting is 1/10. I'm only going to care about this 4/10 of the time because the weighting is 0.4, and 5/10. So 2 times 1/10 gives me 0.2. That's what's contributing to the rate of inflation. This would give me 1.6, and then this gives me 1.5. Overall, my rate of inflation is the sum of this, which is 3.3%, giving me that as a likely answer. Number 5, when using purchasing power parity exchange rates, they are more useful to compare standard of living. Okay, purchasing power exchange rates, they standardize the purchasing power between the countries, meaning like not just it also accounts for the cost of living in that country. So price level seems that would be like the best kind of fit for that one. Right, question 6, which of the following is the government most likely to increase to reduce national output? Right, the government here is trying to decrease economic growth, and they are using fiscal policy. So the tools are usually government spending and taxes. And if the government, I'm looking for like lower government spending or higher taxes. Higher taxes would reduce AD because AD has consumption. And if you tax people more, they have less money to spend. So we are looking for higher rates of income tax. Number 7, which of the following is a reason why the extension of property rights is likely to reduce market failure? Property rights are basically legal documents that tell you that you are the owner of something. So when you are the owner, let's say that you face the costs for that property, and you're more likely to take care of that property. But also, if something goes wrong in that property, you can kind of attribute ownership to that. Or in the case of like pollution, imagine a situation where the pollution itself is given property rights. Then you can say that that property or that pollution belongs to another firm, and so they are more likely to pay for those costs. Okay, demand curve for scarves price has fallen, which is true. So is it elastic? No, this region is inelastic. Remember, the elasticity changes along with demand curve. PED is minus 0.5. We don't know exactly. We just know it's going to be between -1 and 0. Firm's total revenue falls. Yes, that's the one. So total revenue should look like this. So as they decrease the price, the total revenue should fall. Okay, next question. A firm charging different customers different prices for the same product is practicing, okay, this is the textbook definition of price discrimination. According to the Fisher's equation of exchange, the price level will increase by, okay, so here they are changing a couple of factors. So we are doing MV equals PY, and money supply multiplied by so this left-hand side is increased from 100 to 115. So this is increasing by 15.5%. And then this right-hand side, are we told about that? Final output produced by the economy. So we have to kind of assume we're holding M constant, but this is increasing by 10%. Okay, so overall we can see from this that prices will increase. So this is getting pushed up by 15.5%, whereas the quantity is getting pushed up by 10%. So if I were to like rearrange this, okay, so this goes up by 15.5, and this goes up by 10. Now you can't really divide these because these are like percentage changes. I guess what you could do is you could like make up some false values for year 1 and year 2 and then try and work this out. As a rule of thumb, you can kind of minus one from the other, but that's just an estimate. So it will overestimate the figure. So you can't, yeah, you just don't try and put this to a calculator. So I reckon it will be 5. It's not as high as 5.5. That's just the estimate. Be a little bit lower than that. Whoops, trying to circle that in. Okay, risk. So this is the risk that the financial system will sort of collapse. Investment banks have low capital to output ratios. Yeah, okay, this means that the banks are not going to be as safe as they were before, but I don't think that's as bad as B. Because here it says most banks, it means that there's a huge amount of risk because most of the banks are involved in both of these markets. So there's going to be a lot of connections between those two markets within each bank, but also between each bank because they're all in the same market. So if something goes wrong in the commercial bank of bank 1, then all the banks 2 to bank 20, are going to feel it, even in the investment banking division. So that's super risky. These two factors look like they'll do the other way. They'll help make the financial system more stable, like having a lender of last resort and having high liquidity ratios. So Yeah, I think that would be most likely. Oops, hang on a second. I have managed to lock my iPad mid-video. Okay, so number 12, long run AS is shifting to the right, shifting to the left. So we have something going wrong in the supply side of the economy. For example, a natural disaster. Which of the following is a role of the World Trade Organization? Okay, keyword is a role. These guys do a whole bunch of things, but they help facilitate trade. They help provide the legal infrastructure to do that, settle disputes. So that sounds just about right. Which of the following is a reason why the supply of cars is likely to be price elastic? So PES, this guy's elastic in a scenario where you change your quantity by a much larger percentage than you can change your price. So we're looking for something that the supply of cars can easily expand. For example, D, lots of spare capacity. That means that the machines are ready to produce cars and they're able to. If there's an improvement in technology, then that should help the production of the economy in the short run. Let's ask about the short run. So that will be B. Which of the following best explains the existence of relative poverty? This is the one where you're earning 60% less than the median. It's not about essential goods, that's absolute poverty. This measures inequality, but not poverty. Usually this is best explains, right? Usually that's not the case. Usually people on really low incomes pay like less in tax. So that wouldn't explain relative poverty because the after-tax income becomes more similar to the median after tax. So anyway, that's basically the definition of relative poverty. 17, this tax is an example of we need to work out what type it is. So to do this, we're going to work out the percentage of income paid in tax. So you can see here you paid £4,000, but your income was 20,000. So you are spending, what is this, 1/5 of your income as tax? Or 20, let's put it as 20%. I just tend to skip the middle and go for the last bit. So 20% of their income would have meant spending 10,000 on tax, and you can see here that they're actually only spending 7,000. So as this person gets richer, they actually pay a lower percentage of tax. This is a regressive tax, which is a supply side policy aimed at reducing the natural rate of unemployment. So this is made up of frictional and structural. So we are looking for something that benefits either or both of them, and it has to be a supply side policy. Yeah, this is great. If you retrain people, you help them get back into work, and you're tackling structural unemployment. So 19, we have deadweight loss from perfect competition to monopoly. Okay, so this is supply and demand, and we will be starting at PC and QC. But when you're in a monopoly, you now produce where MC equals MR. So you're pricing at QM and PM. So they've been nice in giving you that data. Right, consumer surplus initially would have been the difference between the price and the demand curve. Producer surplus, the difference between the price and the supply curve up until the units that you sell. And then afterwards, you want to look at the difference between the price, the demand curve, and the price and the supply curve only up until the units that they sell. So you can see that total community surplus or social surplus, being consumer surplus and producer surplus, has actually fallen. It's lost area 5 and 6. Okay, question 20. Which of the following will happen to firms' average and marginal revenue as a result of less market demand? So we have perfect competition. Perfect competition is a price taker, but you have D, AR, and MR all equal together, and that's because of what's happening in the market, supply and demand. Here we have less demand, so we should have an overall reduction in price, with that a lower demand AR and MR. So that sounds about right. 21. Marginal utility is falling. This is normal. As you consume more, marginal utility is 0 there. So total utility has been going up all this time, but it went up the most in the beginning. And then at 7, it's peaking. It's no longer changing. The change is 0. So marginal utility is not maximized, it's 0 there, but total utility is the highest it will be there. You gained all the prior increases until you have no more increases. Which of the following combinations is most likely to indicate an economic boom? Okay, this is like late phase of a business cycle when things get carried away, when there's too much greed and too much confidence. So we tend to say that prices are quite high. So the greed of the firms and the high aggregate demand makes firms quite confident to keep prices high. And because prices are high, you could argue that imports are then going to be high because you're going to buy them from overseas. And remember that your income has never been higher. You know, you're really in demand. So that checks out quite well. Job vacancies, so unemployment will be falling because people will be needed to produce all of these goods. However, job vacancies is a little bit different. I reckon that firms will be trying to create job vacancies because they will be trying to fill positions as they have lots and lots of demand coming in. However, they won't be able to fill those job vacancies, all of them at least. So I think that's the most likely answer. You could actually argue quite a couple of other things, but that's probably the safest in my opinion. What's the value of real GDP to the nearest billion? Right, so we have the real GDP in 2019 was 290, and then the prices have increased by a factor of 1.1. And then my calculator says that that's around 263.6, rounded will be 264. So that's basically the equation for real GDP, by the way. Divide it by your price deflator, which is like the increase in the price that's happened. So at profit max, the firm will be producing where MC equals MR, and they will be making supernormal profit of all of this area. So that's the answer there. Which of the following represents the yield on a bond? Okay, to work out the yield on a bond, you want to work out the income that the bond is paying you, which is 200. Uh-oh, is my pen might be struggling. Okay, anyway, so the income is 200, and the entry price to be able to get that 200 in income is currently £8,000. So as a result, you are getting 200, but you paid 8,000. So that is 2/80 or 1/40. So I think that the answer is B. Let me see, my pen woke up. Yeah. That is about right. Question 26. The balance sheet of a commercial bank, and we need to look at the liquid assets. So I'm going to ignore liabilities, that kind of thing. And I'm going to just look at the liquid assets. So I'm going to look at cash and cash equivalents. For example, the cash that you have in a central bank, which gives me 75, no, gives me 70 plus 30 is 100 billion. Which of the following is the most likely consequence of this change in the pattern of consumption? We have people not going to seaside holiday towns. So these towns aren't going to do well. If there's no holiday visitors, they'll have high rates of unemployment. Their house prices won't be as high. A doesn't make any sense. It's like a contradiction, right? You can't reduce the structural unemployment if the labor is immobile. But this seems about right. So all the coffee shops and everything like that will have to keep the prices low to attract the few people that do come in and compete for those few customers. Okay, not sure about that one. Which of the following is most likely to result from a competitive labor market replaced by a monopsony market? Okay, so we have... okay. So essentially, what's going on here is that we started in a competitive market. Competitive markets, they produce where your... let me see, can I get this back? No, I have to investigate what happened to this, but competitive markets produce where AC equals MRP, because the AC is the supply curve and the MRP is the demand curve. So we would start from W2 and Q2. Then the monopsony comes in and instead decides to profit maximize, producing where MC equals MRP. Sorry, hiring that many workers. So it's now going to hire Q1 people at a wage of W3. So as a result of that, the total amount paid in wages will fall because you were paying people W2 for Q2 hours of labor, and now you're paying them the minimum that they accept, which is W3 for the Q1 number of workers. The workers are getting underpaid and also overworked because there's less of them. Which of the following is more likely to explain the trend shown in table 6? So we have the UK HDI is increasing from 0.916 to 0.32. Now the HDI is made up of 3 things: education, healthcare, and your income. So I'm looking for an increase in any of those 3 factors. For example, the most direct thing seems to be life expectancy at birth. Okay, 30. Unemployed workers in the south of a country are unable to take up jobs in the north due to higher housing costs. This is an example of, right, this is geographical unemployment. Because they can't move, they can't take up these jobs. So yeah, that's basically the definition of geographical immobility. Anyway, please let me know if you do like this video, and hit the like button if you did. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you another time.